freshman year, and I had became a freshman in high school, and that's when everything just fell back, and I was no longer wanting to come to God. All I cared about, I was so like lost, and I became back stuck in the world. Then my sophomore year, this was a year after, and I was no longer a freshman. I was now a sophomore in high school, so I came more to my senses, and I tried to start getting into God again. Every Friday I would go to church, and I started coming to God more, and I really started to worship God at the church, and it really changed the way, like, I was no longer embarrassed to worship God. Then I realized that I was just living for God on Fridays and not, every day. And I would come to church on Fridays and then, live out my life, just like the way it was, like thinking it's all right for me to just, have time for God on Fridays, like, at church. I realized that I needed to bring church out of the four walls, and I needed to, like, really live for God. It was really hard for me, honestly, to make that huge transition, like, to give up the world and to give up my worldly desires and give up my flesh desires, because I cared about so much about what people thought and popularity and class and all this stuff, that it was so hard for me to give up the world and give up what people thought of me. But eventually I realized that me giving it up, it really made a huge difference, and God blessed me a lot with understanding of a lot of things, and understanding, like, what people do in the world. It's not normal, and I began to think that my worldly desires and the things that I wanted to do was normal, and it's not normal. Christ is normal. God has called us to be separate from the world. He has called us out of the darkness into the light. So, like, if you have friends that leave you for coming to Christ, then were they really your friends to begin with? Coming to Christ, I had to admit to myself that I was a slave to the world. God created you for so much more. People think that just going to church will save their souls, but honestly, church attendance won't save your soul. We have to take church out of the four walls, and we have to actually follow God. There's a difference between believing in God and following God. Like, man, Satan believes in God, Does Satan deserve a spot in heaven because he believes in God? There's more to it, more to just believing in God. We have to follow God.